trying to ingrain the exact same values that we had, it might not work. So for us to be able to differentiate between what truly is religion and what might be culture, I think that. But other than that, answering your main question, I think it's just instilling those things, and then I think a little bit of patience and a little bit of dua, I think.
So instilling of those things were the thing that you mentioned before, all 4 steps. It's basic core of the belief, knowledge, niya.
All of those things. Other than that, even like mentioning, right? Maybe that, for example, this session, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But I've seen it actually last Ashura, right? I walked into a room and I saw kids like watching the Cowboys game because there was a game on last Ashura. And I was like, it's okay. I was like, what are you gonna say, right? That's definitely not an ideal situation.
But if the kid is doing it, it's okay. But if the adult is doing it, that's a problem.
Oh, that's a serious issue, right?
The adults who stayed home watching Warrior game today, they have a serious problem.
I don't know. If they have a serious problem, I don't know. I don't want to go that far. Because, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to compare it to, right? This is maybe a voluntary session. Okay, maybe they didn't feel like coming. Maybe they spent the last 3 nights, praying all night long. It's okay, cut them some slack. It can't be like that hardcore. Like, it can't be that. But overall, yes, I think that those values should be instilled. That listen, this is important. This is also important. I understand that you need to have, your leisure, your sports and whatnot. But remember that when it comes to these two, then this is more important. Forget like sports and stuff, right? And you learn these lessons. That's what I was saying. Like you learn these lessons from, for example, Karbala as well. When Imam Hussein is giving everything, forget not just, hey, can I give up a Warriors-Cavs game? No, giving up everything. Not just, something for fun. Giving up everything in the way of Islam. But then, a lot of times the shortcomings are from us as the people who run the centers, us as speakers, us as organizers. A lot of times shortcomings are from that side where, and this is, it's across the board, we have these issues. They're going to bring one of these kids here and you're going to do a speech where he has no idea what's going on. He has no idea what you're talking about. All he sees is like, the speaker is saying something and then someone screams from that corner and someone screams from, they have no idea what's going on. And you're expecting them to get religion from that. It's not going to happen. So that is our responsibility then. That's our shortcoming and our fault that our priorities are not straight. Priorities not straight, right? So once we have our youth as a priority in our center, and then when it's not working, then we can start talking about it. But if the youth are not even a priority in our center, and I'm not saying, I really don't know anything about what goes on here, but I've seen this across the board. Not across the board like everywhere, but I've seen it in various different places that it is happening. The youth are not a priority, the programs are not tailored for the youth, the center does not tailor the programs to the youth, but they want their youth to be the next, Cumbers and the next, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Especially in the environment that we live in, we need to go overboard. We need to do extra work if we expect those kind of results.
Any question from the sister side?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How much is it important in Islam to respect our parents and elders? Thank you. Maybe it's for learning. Okay.
Good question, Yadi Saab.
One word answer. Very. Very important. Example. When your parents tell you to go to sleep, go to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. Overall, I mean, when you look in the Quran, right? When you look in the Quran, it puts a lot of emphasis on it, where it says, don't even in today's world, it would say, don't even roll your eyes at your parents, right? So you listen to your parents, and you, where in some places, even after, it mentions God, it mentions the parents. So there's absolutely no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it, right? That's one of those things that's an established truth. Now, some places, let me also say the other side of the issue, right? Sometimes what happens is the parents put children in very uncomfortable and uneasy situations where their expectations are not realistic. They live in their own world from 40 years ago, and they want their kids to do the same, and they want to live the same way. And then when that doesn't happen, they say, oh, you don't listen to your parent. So it needs to be understood. It needs to be understood by two sides, but that is definitely nothing that anyone can argue. That in Islam, the importance of listening to your parents, up here. Very, very important.
Yes.
Respecting your parents. Respecting your parents. Very important.
Okay, so if your parents are wrong, how do you tell them they're wrong and not in a rude way and not in like answering?
That wasn't your dad asking the question, was it? You're not going back and forth, are you?
My dad's
He's not here.
I'm just making sure I'm not getting in the middle of this. I think one of the most, and this kind of like adds on to your question as well, I think between parents and kids, right? Between parents and children, and just like any other relationship, but these are the two most important ones, the husband and wife and the parent and kids. Communication is key. Communication is key. What happens a lot of times is the previous generation, right? So not these kids, but their parents. A lot of times, not always. The way they were raised, the conditions and the circumstances that they were raised in, there wasn't always that much communication between them and the parents. I might be wrong, but you can correct me if that is the case. And there were effects of that. And there were effects of that. Yes, those people did respect their parents, but they didn't always have the very, that sort of close relationship. But I think the key for what you're saying, sister, what you're saying is communication, right? If there's a relationship, right? Even say, for example, two of your friends, right? No, you and you have like 5 friends, say, right? One of the friends that you have, you hang out with all the time, you talk to all the time, is that you? I'm going to pick on you. You got the next question. Right? You have 5 different friends. One you hang out with all the time, you talk to them, this, that. If that friend says something that upsets you, you would be more likely to be able to tell them as opposed to someone, one of your friends that you're not as close to. Yes? Are you listening? Yeah? Okay. So I think communication is key. So if there is a relationship between parents and children where they communicate on a regular basis, and again, to make sure that it does not mean that you disrespect your parents, but be able to actually at least communicate. Why do you think this? I think this. And if they say, you might not understand, but this is what's better for you at that point, okay, maybe, yeah. But communication, I think, is key. She's a trouble causer of the girls, isn't she? I can tell.
Oh wait,
Okay. Fajr prayers are difficult. How can we convince kids to wake up for Fajr and be regular in their prayers? This goes back, all of these things, that's why what I decided to talk about, what in my opinion was like the most foundational thing, that it covers all of these things. Not being able to do something, not wanting to do something, not wanting to follow Islam, not wanting to follow the rules. Right? All of them start off with knowledge and believing in it, yaqeen, and so on and so forth. But one of the few ways that teachers of spirituality, teachers of Akhlaq, they say for one to be able to, let me actually quote Allama Tabatabai. Does everyone know who that is? Yeah, most people? No. Allama Tabatabai is a true all-star. He's a true also. He's the MVP, right? Of our modern day Shia Islam. He was a commentator of the Quran. He was a philosopher, and not just any average, right? He was one of the best commentators of the Quran. He was one of the best philosophers we had. He was a faqih, as in a jurisprudent. He was a teacher of Sayyid suluk, as in mysticism, irfan, right? All of these things in one person. All of these things in one person. Allah Ta'ala is quoted from his students as saying, there's various ways to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the ways is for you to fight your nafs. Fight your nafs. So your nafs tells you, Ali, stay in bed. It's so nice and comfy. Right? Allah tells you, no, Ali, get up, it's namaz time. Right? So you fight your nafs. You fight your nafs. Your nafs says, I feel like overeating. You say no. Your nafs says, I want to look at an mahram. You say no. Your nafs says this, I want this position, I want to put this word down, this person down. I'm going to say something to make sure that they heard. Your nafs says, I want to do that. Allah says no. So wherever you try to oppose your nafs, right, these carnal desires of yours, whatever direction they're pushing you in, you oppose that. So Allah Ta'ala says, one of the ways to get to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is by that, by opposing your nafs. But another way is through love. And he says that is the quickest and the easiest way. What does he mean by that? He means that increase the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart where you want to do those things for him. So you're not looking at it from a negative aspect now. That I should not do this. Nafs, do not do this. You're saying, oh Allah, yes, do this. So when I asked them how, one of his students, when I asked him, how can one increase that love? Right? Now this is referring to this question about Fajr, and it applies to other things as well. So this is where that you're going from the knowledge, Iman, now you have Iman, now you're trying to go to the Yaqeen part, where this love is going to take your Iman to higher levels. He says, look around yourself. Right? He says it's a very simple thing, but you have to apply it. You can't just think about it, talk about it, hear it, go and think that it will apply to your life. It's not going to happen. You have to go day in and day out and do it on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, and then maybe, right? And then maybe. So he says, imagine you're sitting here right now, right? Close your eyes, right? Close your eyes. Keep them closed. Imagine that this is how your life was for the rest of your life. That would suck, right? Imagine that you weren't able to hear what I was saying. Imagine you weren't able to get up and walk out of this room. Imagine you weren't able to think. Imagine you weren't sane. Imagine you weren't mentally stable. Imagine you didn't have 2 arms. Imagine you didn't have 2 legs. Imagine you didn't have 2 eyes. Imagine. Right? Imagine all those things that if you did not have, how difficult would, right? Ask Hassan, how difficult is life with that thing on? Isn't it difficult? It is difficult, right? So sometimes we don't realize those things until the blessing is taken away from us, right? The poor guy was on crutches for a while, can't walk normally anymore, still has the cool boot on, right? It's better, but it's still difficult to walk. And sometimes we don't realize that until that blessing's taken away. What Allah is saying is, no, don't wait till that blessing's taken away from you. Right now, imagine if that blessing was taken away from you, while you have it. And then thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. Right? If I were to come to you guys, right? If I came here for 30 days in the holy month, and every time I saw you, I gave you a pack of M&Ms. Ah, look at that. Just the thought of it, look at it, they're falling over. Imagine if I actually did that, right? Once you start thinking, the first time I gave it to you, you'd be like, not a bad guy, right? It's pretty cool. Second time, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe it, it's an everyday thing. Third time, fourth time, you're gonna be like, I love this guy. He gives me candy every day, right? Just over a pack of M&Ms. Or if your parents give you a $20 bill every day. Can you imagine that? Yeah, that would be awesome, right? So, can you imagine that, right? If I just give you a pack of M&Ms every day, you'd be like my biggest fan. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much more. We don't think about it. If someone gives me a birthday gift that I like, right? If someone gives you, I don't know, what's it called? I don't know, like a new iPhone or something. You'd be like, oh my God, you're so great, I love you, and this and that. Right? Just over an iPhone. Just over an iPhone. I would be like, my heart would soften towards them. I would want to give them something back in return. I would start being nice to them. I would hate to upset them, right? I would hate to make them upset, and so on and so forth. But then he says, hey, think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these little blessings that He's given you. What if He was to take away just one of them? Just one of them. Right? If anyone's felt like, I don't know, like a headache, a really bad, or say for example, a toothache. Right? Toothache, they say, is like a really bad pain. Right? At that point, it's as if like your entire world is just falling apart. But you still have your two eyes, you still have your mind, you still have your 2 ears, you still have your hands, everything is there. Just one small blessing, and that's it. You're about to fall apart. Right? So who gave me over a pack of M&Ms? My heart's softening. I love this person. I want to do anything for them. I don't want to upset them. But what about the person who gave, what about the entity who gave us all this? So he says, increase, think about these things. Think about these things. Remind yourself on a daily basis of the blessings that Allah has given you. And that will eventually increase your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll share one dua with respect to that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he used to recite when he used to wake up in the morning. Right? Wake up in the morning. And there's a reason he used to recite it. Wake up in the morning. Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyani ba'dan amatani. Praise to that Lord who gave me life after He had given me death. وَلَوْ شَاءَ جَعْلَهُ سَرْمَدًا. And if He had willed, He would have made that, وَبَعَثَنِي مِن مَرْقَدِي وَلَوْ شَاءَ جَعْلَهُ سَرْمَدًا. And praise be to that Lord who gave me life after death and raised me from this resting place. Whereas if He had willed, He would have made it eternal. How many times have you heard of people who went to sleep and never woke up? Right? Have you heard of it? Isn't it so scary? Isn't it so scary? That's what the Prophet is trying to tell us. He's saying, listen, every time you wake up, thank God that you weren't one of those people. And if you realize that blessing, then you will make most of the day that's coming up. There's wisdom behind the dua. So understanding that everything is a blessing every single moment. The Holy Prophet is reciting this every morning, trying to tell us that don't take any single day, don't take any blessing for granted. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make the most of it. Try to make the most of it.
Thank you. You spoke about a priority before, and I have a question on that. Maybe you can shed some light on this. What I've seen is we as parents are really, sometimes we have false sense of security on this. We bring our kids to school on Sunday for 2 hours, leave them, and then pick them up, and we feel that we've done our jobs. And otherwise, we give them an iPhone, and they're playing with it. They're basically being raised by an iPhone versus parents. So have you seen that in other places, and can you shed some light on that, talk about that a little bit, how we as parents are failing when we do that? Thank you.
There is no light there. There's only darkness.
Yes.
There's no light to be shed.
Yes.
I've already said this, right? I've already said this. If anyone thinks that Sunday school's gonna get their kids through, I'm sorry, you're living in a different world. It's not gonna happen. There's communities that have full-time, quote-unquote, Islamic schools, right? I'm putting quote-unquote because I don't know why, but I did anyways. they're Islamic schools. They're struggling with those kids in this kind of an environment. Where their teachers are Muslim, they're praying Salat al-Jama'ah every day. They're commemorating the Shahadats, the Wiladats, they're commemorating everything that you do at your center, they're doing at that school as well, at those schools. Yet the kids, there's still issues going on. Meaning, yes, that the school is part of the equation. Even the school, even a permanent school, I'm not even talking about Sunday school, I'm talking about permanent school. Even the permanent school is part of the equation. Just because we have, and this is why I put it in the quotes, just because we have an Islamic school does not mean that you can put your kids in there and that's it, you're good to go. First of all, the Islamic school truly needs to be an Islamic school. It can't be an Islamic school if someone who just thinks that they know what Islam is. They haven't gone through the proper training of what Islam is. It's just, oh, I read a book here, I read a book there, and now I think I know what Islam is. We don't believe in that for anything else. Why do we take Islam so lightly? So when I say Islamic school, actually a person who's been trained in Islam 1, ideally even been trained in Islamic education, the principles, the values of Islamic education, and how to be able to instill them, and child psychology and all of those things. Right? Ideally, if it's someone like that, then they will be able to even start coming close to what we can call an Islamic school. If we have that, even then it doesn't take the responsibility of the parents. It's still just 8 hours. When you're talking 8 hours, so say 5 days a week, that's still 40 hours. Sunday school is 2 hours. 2 hours. The only thing that Sunday school can get you is some time to do your groceries. At best. Right? And yes, a little bit here, a little bit. I don't want to give this sort of view that, oh, Sunday school is useless. No, that's not true. There's a lot of people who benefit from Sunday school, and there are benefits to Sunday school. All we're trying to say is not sufficient. It's not sufficient.
Thank you.
Sorry for that.
As a high schooler, as an incoming high schooler, I know I'm going to struggle between educational, like, for an example, if it was Muharram and I had tests the next day, how would I prioritize my time? Well, prioritize education or coming to the mosque, for an example?
Usually with those cases, it's very, very seldom that it's the case that, it's the biggest life in your test, and it's, for example, Ashura. Right? Over there, okay, maybe. But usually it's the case that, oh, I'm having some class tests, and, if I go to the center, I'll lose an hour and a half. With a little better planning, I think usually, for most cases, you're able to do both. I think so. And you can ask people in your community who've already gone through high school. But usually, yeah, with a little better planning, I think you're able to do that. I don't want to say that it's, completely wajib for you to be at the center every single night. I don't think that's true. But at least in your head, you understand that this is the more important thing. It is the sort of connection with the Ahlul Bayt. It's the love for Allah. It's the love for Islam. It's the ibadah, the worships that are the most important thing. And yes, education is also very important. But let me share a hadith with you with respect to that. Right? A lot of times in our communities, how do we decide? Let me ask you actually. So, how do you decide who's the smartest out of your friends?
The one who doesn't make dumb decisions.
A student.
That's no one. No, I'm just kidding. No, but what other measures? Like, for example, in your class, who's the smartest kid?
Someone with the best grades.
Right. Usually it's that, right? The one with the best grades, the highest GPA. This is the smartest kid. This is the smartest kid. Once you're done with that, once you're done with high school, right? The smartest kid is who? The one who goes to the best school, right? So if someone goes to Austin, they're going to start thinking, oh, they're so much better than someone who ends up staying at UTD or UTA or something, right? Isn't that true? Isn't that how it works? Is that always true? Not necessarily. Sometimes circumstances keep people home, and they might stay at UTD, and they might be a lot smarter than someone who goes to Austin or even Harvard for that matter. Anyways, so we have these measures that society kind of imposes upon us. And because we're part of society, and a lot of times we're just bombarded from one side. And from the other side, it's just these little 2 hours of Sunday school trying to attack, trying to make up for everything that's being bombarded against us. These are the things, these are the values that knowingly or unknowingly we just start adapting. And we start becoming like that. So in high school, it might be, the highest GPA. After that, it's whoever goes to the best school. After that, whoever gets the best job, or the one who gets the highest paying job, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a good thing that there was a curious mind like yours in Imam Sadiq's time as well. And they went and asked him. They asked him, who would you consider to be smart? Right? Who would you consider for someone to have aql, have intellect? And he said, the aql is something ma ubida biha rahman wa ktusiba bihi al-jinan. Aql is something, if you want to measure someone's aql, if you want to measure how smart someone is, how intellectual they are, how everything, check two things. Ma ubida biha rahman, if they're using this to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they're super smart. If they're using this to be able to earn the heavens, then they're super smart. Everything else is okay. Islam does not say, no, don't study. Yes, study, be good, get good grades. But don't think that you're smart. Your friends might think you're smart, but Imam Sadiq doesn't. That's not his criteria. Right? So remember all these things. These will kind of give you a perspective on. And that's something that you will be able to realize when you come to a point when you realize that you have a test tomorrow and, I don't know, maybe you need to go for a majlis. Right? Say, for example, it's a session like this, maybe you can skip it. It's not, it might not be that big of a deal, but say, for example, if it's the day of Ashura, that's something like you might be able to get the benefit in other ways, like spiritually and whatnot. And getting close to Imam Hussein, and your heart softening, and your love increasing for Allah, and your love increasing for Imam Hussein, which might be worth a lot more than maybe slipping from an A++ to an A-. But that would be something that you would have to decide at that point, I think. As long as within your mind you know that this is the most important thing. And Allah is not very strict with those things. As long as you have it right in the head, sometimes the way you apply that principle might not be perfect. It's okay. They're not gonna they're not gonna hold you accountable for all of those things. So, but two things. So, one, understanding the importance of those things, the relative importance, and two, pre-planning. That will usually take care of most of your stuff.
What happened to your question? You forgot? Your hand was up. Are you shy? Don't be shy. You don't ask him.
Any other question?
Go ahead. Don't be shy.
So there's no other questions.
No questions for you. Okay, I don't have answers for your questions.
So if there's one more question.
What's your point of view on music?
What's my point of view in music?
For music, it doesn't matter what my point of view is, right? Whatever your marja says is what you need to do. See, if I don't know, give me an example of what kind of music we're talking about. Was that?
Appropriate music?
What's appropriate music?
Justin Bieber.
Oh, that's the first thing that comes to my mind when you say appropriate music. What are you talking about?